Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar. My name is Colin Neville and today you are going to discover how to create and promote your first webinar to showcase your knowledge and expertise to generate more profit and sales in your business. Now this basically is going to show you how to do this in sort of 3 easy steps really. Webinars can be quite complicated technically, when you're setting these things up, but hopefully today I'm going to show you how easy it is. You can actually do this yourself and create your first webinar. So let's just get started here. So what is a webinar? Well, you can think of a webinar as a kind of live online presentation, a bit like a kind of seminar, only it's online. And they're actually quite good for doing things like distance learning and training, product training, but they're also quite good for actually teaching and consulting as well. So if you're, for instance, a coach or a consultant who can actually have a product or something you actually teach online, then webinars are an ideal product for you. You may have seen a lot of these webinars in your email inbox recently from companies you deal with already and who are looking to try and sell you something from their services or product range. Well, you can actually do the same thing for your clients or prospective clients to give them some valuable content in your webinar that leads to a sale of your service or product. They're also great for training your own staff as well, especially if they're in remote locations or where your particular business is. Some of the 3 steps for actually making a successful webinar is you have to deliver great content and also relevant content to your audience, as their time is quite valuable and they have gone to the effort of showing up for your webinar in the first place. Step number 2 is if you're trying to sell a participant something from the webinar, then you have to give them a great offer at the end that they will want to purchase after hearing your webinar as well. And number 3, the end product that you're selling your participant must be the solution to the presentation that you gave in your webinar. Okay, so basically what it's saying here is that webinars are really used as a sales tool, and in order to actually utilize it as a sales tool, you have to provide your participants with a great offer they can actually use and actually see an end result from that offer as well in your webinar. So one of the things we can do to do that is look at a service or a product or even knowledge that you have that you can bring to the table in a webinar and say, right, I want to tell people about this particular thing, particular service I've got, or this particular knowledge or expertise I have to actually show people that they can actually use it and have an end result from it in their own business or personally. Okay, so why I started doing webinars? Well, I started a few months ago doing webinars, mostly because I was getting lots of webinars myself from lots of companies and joining up to all these scheduled webinars myself, and I found, well, if these guys are doing it, then there must be something in it. So I started doing more webinars for doing training for my customers and clients, and it became quite successful. A lot of clients got a lot of use out of it, and it was a good way of actually teaching people how to do things with their IT systems and so forth in their own businesses and their own day-to-day lives. I also use webinars as well for showing clients and so forth some new services I might be providing, talking through different things about maybe some consultancy, because you can also use it as not just a webinar, but you can use it as a kind of meeting as well. So you can have online meetings with your clients and so forth. So you can do like one-to-one coaching and so forth, that kind of thing. So my background is kind of IT technical side of things, and basically that was a good fit for doing webinars because there is a wee bit of a technical sort of background to it. Webinars, the way it runs, it's audio-visual presentations and so forth. It runs online over the internet, so there's a little bit of kind of techie thing in there to get things set up and started. But once you've kind of solved that and sort of tied that down, then really it's just down to you presenting your knowledge and expertise to your listeners and your audience. Yeah. So who is this particular webinar for today? Well, this particular webinar is for anybody who is a coach or a consultant, an advisor, an expert, any kind of line, and that particular line that can bring some knowledge and expertise to your audience and show people what you can actually provide them, give them an end result, basically. Yeah. I keep saying this thing about end result, but that's the whole point of doing this. You know, you can't just sort of go in and just lecture people on things. You have to be able to show them something that's valuable, that's giving them value. That will give them that end result at the end. That end result could be a monetary value. It could be more profit for the business. You know, it could be better health. It could be, you know, better way to do something. You know, better way to run or cycle or jog or what it may be. Yeah. So basically, it's a way of sort of showing people that it improves their lives, improves their business. Yeah. So that's why I talk about end result quite a lot, and you'll hear that me talk about it quite a lot through the webinar today. So anybody, as I say, it's a coach or consultant, expert, that kind of thing. Anybody who has maybe a product to sell that they can actually demo it online. Yeah. Obviously physical products are a little bit hard to do, but if you maybe got a software product, a website that you want to demo, yeah, then webinars are ideal for that kind of situation as well. And even people like trainers as well, that if you currently train people in a classroom environment or you train people in one-to-one sort of situation, then you can use webinars to actually reach a lot more people, to teach over the internet, you know, worldwide, really, to actually to teach them of a subject that your sort of business actually teaches. So, some stats about webinars. A webinar, it said, can give you 10 times more leads than any other traditional advertising. And the reason for that is because you have an audience there who's interested in what you have to say. So when you're sending out your invitations to your webinars, you're actually seeking out those prospects, if you like, that are interested in the subject you're talking about. So if somebody joins your webinar, it's kind of half the battle that you know that they're interested in what you want to say. Otherwise, they would join your webinar in the first place. Yeah. I mean, obviously, people here today listening to this webinar are interested in how to set up their own webinars. Yeah. So that's the reason why you came along today. You've not just clicked on that thinking, "Oh, just listen to what this guy's got to say and see what happens." No, I think there's been a bit of interest beforehand. You've looked at, you know, the subject, the title of the webinar and thought that's something I could maybe use and do myself. So the great thing about webinars is that that's that targeted market. You know, you can actually laser focus on a particular set of prospects to actually get new leads for your business, you know, depending on what you're teaching, obviously, and if you get something of good value to give to them, you know. So up to 10 times more leads you can get on traditional advertising. Another thing to remember as well with webinars is that it's like another kind of form of advertising and sales, that you're going to get a small percentage of people who will actually come and actually look and listen to your webinar. The normal average for a webinar is about 10% attendee rate. So if you had invited 100 people, then you're probably looking at maybe 10, yeah, just 10 or more really would actually physically come onto it. It doesn't sound a lot, but that's like that national average, you know, that you get for webinars. So if you're looking to get at least 10 people on there, you have to be inviting between maybe 80 and 100 people, right, to actually get that big figure of 10 there. If you're only looking at inviting maybe 5 people, then obviously to get 5 people on the webinar, then you obviously have to want to get about 50 invites out there. So if you do it as like a 10% kind of figure, then it gives you a rough idea of what you really have to be aiming for. There's webinars, hundreds and hundreds of webinars are run every day worldwide on thousands of different subjects, yeah, and there's quite a few people out there that are quite successful with them, and they make a lot of money from them as well, just purely down to the fact that they're leveraging what they're actually doing with their time to actually hit a bigger audience. So rather than them, you know, doing a one-to-one consulting session or something, they can actually teach consultancy to actually a larger audience at the same time. You know, it's a bit like a classroom environment, but it's online, obviously. So you just don't have that personal one-to-one touch, yeah. But As I go on later on, I'll tell you how you can actually use the webinars to then upsell to a one-to-one coaching sort of seminar or one-to-one coaching sort of meeting to increase your sales as well, to give you more sales and profit. Okay, so breaking the webinar down, basically what you need to conduct a webinar is you need participants, obviously. So you need to obviously invite people to your webinar, but the physical actual equipment you actually need is a PC, a laptop, or even a tablet with an internet connection. You also need a microphone and headphones that connect your PC to communicate with your guests, or you can use your telephone. Yeah, so people who are actually participating in your webinar will have the same idea. They can actually pick up the phone. There's a local toll number they can dial that allows them to listen to a webinar. If you have a question and answer session in your webinar, so you've got like a two-way communication thing, they can actually talk to you over this normal phone while you're talking to them on the headset. Most people tend to use maybe a headset or headphones with maybe a built-in microphone to actually go on a webinar, because it's a lot easier and cuts down the bills as well, because obviously with a telephone it's a bit of a charge, slight charge, not a lot, but it's a small charge that goes there on the telephone bill. But as using the headphones and the headset, basically it's purely just voice over IP over the internet, which is free basically. Yeah, so there's no charge for that, so it's better to use that kind of equipment. Now there is obviously, I'm not going to get into too much detail about what's the best equipment to buy and so forth, because they're all different types. I use a Microsoft own headset, and it's ideal, good quality, and for what I'm doing, it's great. The other thing you need is obviously, if you're presenting on a webinar, is you need some sort of way of presenting that information. So you use like a PowerPoint presentation to actually put to a little PowerPoint, so that gives you the visual. And obviously your headset is giving you the audio as well. So it's a visual audio setup that allows you to actually teach what you're trying to get over to your audience. I don't know if you've ever heard of teleseminars, but teleseminars have been going around for a little number of years now. And a teleseminar was basically a purely audio setup. So you could use your phone to people could contact you again via the phone direct, but there was no visual presentation. So webinars are kind of like a step up from that, really, and it gives you the visual, and that's really improved the teaching of things, because now you don't just have to sort of listen to somebody on the phone and you're rushing to take notes. You can actually see a presentation, and that presentation can actually then be emailed to all participants after the webinar is finished, so they can look back at it, and they can also listen to the recording of the audio together. So it allows them then to sort of let it their own free will, if you like, and they'll look back at it as a sort of representation of what they actually went through in the webinar. So it's good from that point of view. It was teleseminars, it was just purely audio, and all the teleseminars were quite good, but it's a lot better to have that visual presentation. And you don't just have to have PowerPoint, you can actually have video as well, so that you can actually have a video of yourself actually teaching the actual presentation, and that's all part and parcel of the whole package of the recording, if you like, that you can actually send to your audience. So let's move on. How webinars can help you gain new clients, increase your profits. Well, as I talked to before, any type of consultancy or coaching business is ideal. So if you're an expert at a particular thing in your subject field, or you're a consultant or a coaching consultant, then you are perfect for using webinars in your business, and you really should consider using them. It's a great sales tool, and it can get you a lot of business, but it's not just a sales tool, it's also a teaching tool as well. So it's the two things there. You can use it to get more sales, but you can also use it to actually provide the thing you're trying to teach. Yeah, so it's a two-way thing. And as I say, there's lots and lots of people out there around the world that are actually using webinars from all walks of life, and been very, very successful with it. And another good thing about webinars is you have a captive audience. So as I said before, that people come to your webinar are probably really half interested in what you have to say. So you have to convince them that they should stick with you, right to the end of that webinar. Yeah, it's a bit like you get the TV programs on television, and you know these soap operas, and they kind of leave you hanging at the end, so you've got to go and watch the next one to see what happens, and just keep you leave you hanging. Yeah. So any kind of offer that you have to want to leave that to the end. If you give them the offer too soon, they might just look at the offer and then just click off and go away. So you always want to have your offer near the end of the webinar, and you want to try and keep your audience captivated there. Yeah, but the beauty about a webinar is a captive audience. You know, the people you're talking to want to listen to what you have to say, yeah, as opposed to any other traditional advertising. You're just sending out into the world there and just trying to hope that somebody sees your advert and likes it, which I call kind of hope marketing, you know, which doesn't really work. So you want to be more targeted, and webinars are a great way to do that. Client feedback. Another great thing about webinars is that you can get lots of feedback from your clients about what they actually want from you, or what they actually need or are looking for. Yeah, so beforehand you can actually speak and talk to your clients about what kind of thing they would like to hear on a webinar, and that allows you then to, you know, put all this together and actually give them exactly what they would like to hear from you, rather than you just sort of saying, well, I want to create a webinar on this and hoping that people will actually take something from that. Yeah. But if you actually can find out what people actually need, then you are one step ahead and actually be able to teach them that particular problem or issue they might be having in their own lives or businesses. So client feedback is quite a good one, and you don't have to really start off by doing it before the webinar, but you could do a webinar and then send out a questionnaire and find out how they found the webinar, what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, what they'd like to include in another webinar. So it's a kind of constant process of obviously improving your webinars as you go along. Yeah. Next on that is you can generate traffic to your website on a squeeze page. So what I mean by here is that by bringing people into your webinar, yeah, you are creating traffic that then you can send from your webinar to your website again, or to a squeeze page. Now, a squeeze page is a one-page website, really. And what the squeeze page does basically is that it's a way of capturing your customers' email addresses, yeah, and that allows you to then build a list of email addresses that you can use to sell to later on down the line, with additional services and so forth. So it's quite a good way of using webinars to actually generate more traffic. Or you can just send them to your website so that they can look over your website. You might have a call to action or some services and products of offers you have on your website that they can actually click on and do. You know, so you could do a webinar and you may have an offer at the end that says, look, thanks for attending the webinar. Go to my website where you'll get a 50% discount on blah blah blah, and it allows them to then sort of click on that and make some money for yourselves. You know, so it's sort of sending traffic to your website or a squeeze page that's capturing email addresses. Yeah. So good way of actually making some money and getting new clients as well. When it comes to new clients, obviously, you use webinars to actually bring people that you've maybe never met before, but you've maybe spoken to online through social media and so forth, and it brings them onto your webinar, and it starts to build a relationship with them, even though you might not be speaking directly with them face to face. Yeah, you're still communicating with them. Yeah, and actually giving them information, and they're getting to know you and getting to trust you, who you are, and what you have to say, basically. Okay, so 3 simple steps to creating your first webinar is step 1, you want to sign up to a website called GoToWebinar for their 30-day free trial. Yeah. Now, there is other webinar software sites out there like WebEx or Google Hangouts, but I prefer to use GoToWebinar because it's got lots of features for the price, and it's quite easy to use for a presenter, yeah, and it's also quite easy to use for a participant as well, yeah. But it's quite advanced and sophisticated behind the scenes, so that you can do a lot more with it. You know, you can run polls and so forth, you can answer questions, you can chat to people, you know, you can do all the sorts of different recordings and so forth, you know, so it's got a bit more involved with it, but the actual basic use of it as a webinar is very, very easy to use, and it's ideal for people just starting out doing webinars. And you can go to the website and just sign up for the 30-day free trial. You don't have to give your credit card details, just an email address, and it allows you to actually then go and test some webinars on your friends and family. This is some wee tests, and maybe run some wee small webinars to some of your clients, and to see how you get on. And the more you do them, the better you'll become at them. And it's like anything else, practice makes perfect. So you just have to try it out and just go for it. Step number 2, once you've signed up for the GoToWebinar, you then want to schedule and invite your prospects to your webinar. So it says at the beginning, I probably recommend you to start off quite small and just do a webinar to even your members of staff. You can actually talk to them and they can give you some feedback of how you did. But you don't need that feedback initially to actually find out, what mistakes you're actually making on your webinars, because it's not easy that you're actually talking to a screen in a webinar. You don't actually see the people you're talking to. You know the people are there and they're listening, but sometimes it's quite hard to just sort of talking to yourself and watching a screen, so you just have to get that mindset that you're actually communicating with people around the world, really, if it's a worldwide invitation to your webinar, and you just have to get used to actually, the way you talk and trying to slow things down and not talking too fast, and you'll get lots and lots of feedback just through trial and error, just by people that come to your small test webinars, and that helps you improve. You come to do a live webinar with a particular clients or prospects. So after you've scheduled and invited your prospects, you want to present your webinar. So presenting your webinar is obviously all about basically getting all your notes in place, having your PowerPoint presentation, all your slides in place as well, having all the audio, computer all set up, ready to go for that particular date and time, and then it's just a go, and you practice, and you just do the webinar. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? Don't be too perfect. It's all practice, right? The first couple of webinars you do live might not be the best thing, but the best thing to do is just to try it, and you'll improve as you go along, and as you do another webinar, and you'll learn by your mistakes as well, and you can tell from the feedback you'll get from your participants what you're doing wrong, or what they would like to see more of, maybe, or maybe you might be great at it, but they would like to see a little bit more content, right, or a bit more detail, or so forth. But you have to be prepared. You have to have your stuff ready in front of you. You have to have your presentation, your PowerPoint presentation slides, which I recommend. Or if it's a particular product, an online product that you're actually showing people, then you have to make sure that your demonstration is working and it's all been tested out beforehand before you start it, because it's nothing embarrassing than showing a brand new product to your clients and so forth, and you don't know how to work it, or it fails, it doesn't actually work, so you have to make sure that that's just all sorted before you go ahead with your webinar. Okay then. So that's 3 easy steps, really. I mean, that's really webinars in a nutshell. Is you have to use an online webinar software like GoToWebinar. So you sign up for that. You schedule and invite all your prospects to a webinar. And then you present your webinar. Okay, that's it. That's webinars in a nutshell, right? Obviously, each of those steps you get into more detail about, what's involved in doing the scheduling and inviting, what's involved in presenting, what's involved in setting up the actual GoToWebinar software. So there's a little bit of technical marketing, sales stuff behind that, that you have to learn as well. But in a nutshell, that's it. 3 easy steps. So the best format to use to ensure your webinar is a success. So the first thing you do is you start with an introduction. So at the beginning, when I first started this webinar, I talked to you about really, who this webinar is for, why I get involved in the webinars myself, and some stats as well. So that part of it is really just like the introduction, if you like, to the actual webinar. So you have to have an introduction. And you also have to have like a content bit and an offer at the end. Yeah, and I'll tell you in a little minute what I mean by that. So the other thing you don't want to do is you don't want to waste too much time at the beginning, right? You don't want to be rabbing on for about half an hour at the beginning of an introduction, right? So I've been on webinars before, and it took about 20-25 minutes before the host gets to the point of what it's actually going to talk about. Yeah, and it can turn off a lot of people, and after a little while, people maybe switch off and says, "Well, I'm not hanging around to listen to him rabbit on about himself," So you want to kind of maybe spend about 10 minutes at the most in an introduction, and it's just kind of warming people up about to who you are, because you're speaking to strangers a lot of the time, and you're bringing people into a webinar that you don't really know. You have to build that relationships. You have to tell people who you are, what your background is, what you're there to teach that day, and what your webinar is going to show them. Yeah, so you're giving them a kind of overview summary of the webinar you're speaking about, but don't spend too much time on it because it can turn a lot of people off. You also want to which is important, tell your story, right? What I mean by tell your story is that, again, it's building trust and relationships with your participants, because you don't really know them. So you have to tell them all about yourself, and that doesn't mean telling your life story, right? I started off poor, I found the internet, made $1 million, bought a Porsche, bought a big house, now I'm a multi-millionaire, I invest in companies, Okay, all great, well done you. Nobody really wants to hear all that stuff. People are on the webinar for themselves. They're there to listen to what they want out of it, not you talking about how great you are and so forth, right? But what you want to do is you want to sort of just give a quick summary about how you got to this point, of actually talking about this webinar and actually running this webinar and actually to teach the people that you're teaching to, yeah. And you want to try and relate as much as your story to them as well, to build rapport with you and your audience. So you might want to talk about, some life experiences you maybe had, just kind of short ones that people could relate to. People say, "Oh, yeah, that sounds like me. Oh, I did that." Well, this is, that's something that maybe I can relate to, and if you can show me how that you can help me to change that, then great, if that's what the webinar's about. So telling your story is quite a powerful way of actually building rapport with your participants. Another good thing you want to do is you want to give testimonials or statistics. So if you've got a product or service that you have that has been successful in the past, that you can prove that it does work, right, that there's an end result to it, then you can give some testimonials at the beginning as well and say, Joe Bloggs took this coaching class and now his business went from 0 to £1 million in 1 year with the help of running my course. So I mean, give like sort of really genuine testimonials, and they have to be true. They can't be made up, because people will catch you out. People will know right away if you're making stuff up. And with internet today, in the information age, people know when you're lying or it's not true. So the testimonials have to be from real people, and they have to be real figures, yeah, or real percentages or so forth to back up what you're actually saying, yeah. But there are very powerful testimonials, and it can't just be a testimonial saying, "Oh, Colin's a great guy, and his course was great, blah blah blah." It has to be more than that. It has to have more meat to it. It has to be specific. Colin, after watching Colin's webinar, I went away and I started my first webinar. I set it up, and now I've got 5 new clients. It's something like that, right? So it shows people that what you're teaching actually works. If you don't have testimonials, then you can use statistics. Statistics are not as powerful, but it shows people that it does work, yeah. And again, they have to be true statistics, and hopefully the statistics actually from like popular magazines or media, so people can actually go and check them out. You can actually put links on your PowerPoint presentation that shows people linking back to a particular statistic on a particular website maybe, but it has to be from really genuine sort of publications, like Forbes magazine or entrepreneur.com, so it has to be from these kind of places that it kind of proves that these big companies have done their proper research on it, and what you're saying is actually true. So again, at the beginning I gave some statistics, like 10 times more lead than traditional advertising, so you can go and check that out on Google, on websites and stuff like that, and it'll actually show you that what I'm actually saying is true, and there's people out there actually doing this, So you have to make sure that what you actually say is true. So you want to show the people the results you will get, yeah? So from your webinar, right, a quick overview at the beginning, you can say, well, after this webinar, you will be able to do A, B, C. You'll be able to do, set up a webinar, present the webinar, and then follow up and provide an offer to your clients and make more sales out of it, right? So you have to show people the results they will actually get after they've been on your webinar and actually listen to you, yeah? And if people actually see results, then they can see the benefit of actually attending a webinar or listening to you or even going on the next webinar, but they have to see that there's proof there, yeah? So you have to have that proof to get people interested, and that's quite a powerful thing as well, proof to show people it actually works. So to break it down a little, webinars I recommend be set over either 60 minutes or 90 minutes. The reason why is because most people's attention span is quite small, and after a little while they'll tend to turn off, yeah? Especially if the webinar is not quite going the way they want to hear, they're not quite getting that information they want, or it's just too much information, too much detail. So after a little while, they'll just really just turn off. So you want to be spending hours and hours on webinars. The average is about 60 minutes for a webinar, and in that 60-minute webinar, you'll have your introduction, you'll have your content selection section, and you'll have an offer at the end. So the introduction will be a 10-minute introduction, max. Your content section will be at least 40 minutes, yeah? 40 minutes or more, 40, 50 minutes. And then at the end, you want to give them the offer that you're giving them based on the content. So at the end, you'll spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes just going over your offer that you want to present to them, yeah? Within your content section, you want to break down what you want to talk about, and you want to break that down into like bullet points. So you have like 3 to 5 steps. So if you're talking about a particular subject that you're an expert in, then try and break those down into summarize the 3 to 5 steps and talk a little bit about them. You'll be surprised how quickly things actually move on in the time. Like 60 minutes sounds a lot, but it's not, because after a short period of time, to talk about 3 different sort of 5 to 7 bullet points, can take a little while. Even though you're just kind of summarising most things, you're not going into too much detail. Yeah, you're trying to sort of convince people that the steps you're telling them about, and if they follow those, they will be successful in what you want them to do. So for a 60-minute webinar, it's just 3 to 5 steps. For a 90-minute webinar, you can go up to 7 steps, yeah, so that's a little bit longer. For doing your first webinars, I would recommend to stick to 60 minutes or even 30 minutes. This is a wee test webinar, just to try things out, But if you break things down, so in your PowerPoint presentation, you've only got sort of small steps to what you're talking about that particular day, okay? And you're really kind of summarising what you want to talk about. You're not going into too much detail about it. The detail will come later on, possibly in your offer, yeah, which I'll talk to you about in a little while. So, 60 minutes or 90 minutes. I'd also recommend is, depending on what you're actually selling, will depend on the length of your webinar as well. So for instance, if you're a coach or a consultant or a trainer and you're selling a new coaching course and you are selling it, say, £1,000, yeah? So you're selling £1,000, and over an 8-week period you're running this course over webinars, and you want to charge them £1,000 for, and you're basically saying, well, for anything under £1,000, stick to a 60-minute webinar. For anything over £1,000, stick to a 90-minute webinar. And the reason is because it's a bit of a psychological thing, is that people want to see they're getting value for their money. So if they're paying over £1,000 for it, then they probably want to see maybe sessions at 90 minutes at a time. Yeah, so they're getting the most detail out of it, yeah? So if they charge them £2,000, £3,000, £5,000, whatever it may be, then by running sort of 90-minute webinars or more, right, up to say 2 hours, right, they'll actually see for every session they're getting 2 hours packed full of value and content and lots of detail that they can take away that's worth the money they're actually getting, yeah. Nobody's going to pay you £2,000 if you're, get on there for half an hour, and just talking that having is just not enough time to actually teach people what they really need to know. But for small 60-minute webinars and you're charging under £1,000, in between, 100 up to £1,000, 60-minute webinars are fine, and that should cover most things that you want to do. And of course, you can do the 60-minute webinars over a 10-week period, so you can do more webinars. And but you tend to find that if it's only over a 5-6 week period, even 7-week period, then people stick with the course. If it's over 10 or more, they might not stick with it. They want to get the information quicker, yeah. They don't want to wait a few months down the line before they actually find out your best value content coming at the end, So another thing to think about is that there's 3 types of users you get in a webinar. There's a host, a presenter, and a panelist. So the host is basically me. I'm hosting the webinar today, but I'm also presenting it as well, yeah? So what that means is that the host could be somebody who has organised the webinar, yeah? So I've sent out the invitations, I've scheduled the webinar, I've done all the marketing for it, I've done all the technical side of it, all the back office stuff, and set it all up, all ready to go. Day one, gets go live, right? So that's the host, right? He's in charge of it, yeah? The presenter is the actual person presenting the content, yeah? So the host maybe does an introduction and he tells you, welcome to a webinar. We're here today to talk about the 5 easy steps to set up your webinar course for success in your business. And then he introduces the presenter, and the presenter then comes in and he presents the content, yeah? And then at the end, either the host or the presenter or both can then talk about the offer that's on the table there to give to people that are the participants of the webinar. A panelist is a guest presenter, really, yeah? So this is somebody you've invited along to be part of your webinar, and you're basically saying, today I've invited along an expert on marketing who's going to talk to you today about how to market your webinar, your first webinar online, and to gain 100 attendees in your first webinar. So you've invited this expert along because maybe you don't have that expertise that your clients are looking for. So because the clients, you've got a relationship with them, you can invite an expert who wants to come along and be part of your webinar. So then you become the host. Yeah, they become the presenter, right? Or you're the host, the presenter, and they're the panelist. Yeah, so they might be asking you questions. So it could be a kind of answer, two-way conversation really between the two of you. Yeah, so you're asking them questions, right? And like a kind of chat show host, and they're giving you the answers back. Or you could just do the introduction, and they could present their stuff, and at the end you come back in at the end, right, to finish things off, yeah. And you make an offer that maybe might be your offer, or maybe their offer, right? Because one of the things you can do is you can partner up with your guest speakers, and they can sell their stuff on your webinar, right? So that's something else you can actually do. So 3 types of users: host, presenter, and panelist. Yeah, and you can be both. You can be a host and a presenter. Unfortunately, you can't be a host, presenter, and a panelist because that would make you a bit schizophrenic, right? A bit kind of, 2 people in one place, so you can't really be that. So you have to be the host or the presenter, or the host and presenter, but not all 3. Okay. How to promote your webinar to new existing clients, right? Well, what you have to do, first of all, the most important thing you have to do is you want to start building a list. Now, what do I mean by a list? Well, a list is really a list of email addresses that you've collected from existing clients or from new clients, new prospects, yeah, that you can actually use to send out invitations to, yeah, to tell people about your webinar. So what I would probably think about doing is that to start you off when you're creating your first webinar is start off with your existing clients, because those are the easy ones to actually approach, yeah, and you already have those details, you already have that customer database list there, yeah. But what I want to do as well is to actually have a separate list, actually create a separate list, and this separate list, right, will be your main kind of email list, if you like, yeah. It's not a full customer database list, right? It's not got names, addresses, and so forth. It's just a purely email list, yeah. And that will be used for actually inviting people to webinars and actually selling services to them as well via email, yeah. So list building is one of the biggest things that people have to get involved in when they create a webinar, and it's one of the most difficult things as well. I mean, you hear a lot of gurus talking about, oh, you know, list building is dead easy, do this, do that, and the next thing. Yeah, it's not really. It can take a lot of time, it can really take a lot of effort to actually build that list together, because the people on the list have to want to be on your list as well. They can't just be, you know, people that you've decided there without asking their permission, really. You know, so they have to be part of an opt-in, really, an opt-in list. So one of the other ways you can actually promote your webinar is using social media to drive traffic to your squeeze page, yeah, or just purely the social media to actually link to your scheduled webinar. So the way you found this webinar today was via LinkedIn. You found it via LinkedIn group that I run on LinkedIn, and there was a link discussion on that particular group that talked about the webinar, what I was going to cover, and there's a link there at the bottom. You can actually then click on and join the webinar. So this stuff works, you know, because that's how you found myself on this webinar. You use social media, so you use things like LinkedIn, Facebook, you know, all these kind of social media platforms that everybody uses every day, and you can attract your audience of all your contacts, connections, or if you're a member or have a member of a group, or you have your own groups on LinkedIn. Then you can actually set this up and actually target particular people that may be interested in what you're talking about on your webinar. Or you can drive them to a squeeze page, and what the squeeze page again says is it actually captures their email address. So if they're coming from a social media platform and you want to actually capture them into your list, your database list, yeah, into your kind of email list, then you can send them to the squeeze page first, and the squeeze page would give them an offer to sign up to the webinar, or maybe download a white paper on something, yeah, or a report, right, or a newsletter maybe, right, and it allows them to then enter their email address, and you've captured that email address, so they're actually opting in for you to receive their email address. Okay. Search engine advertising. They can be quite expensive, yeah. If you have a budget for advertising, you can use things like Google Ads and so forth, Facebook ads, and that allows you to, you know, target specific portions of the internet to your advertising to then get them to your webinar, yeah. So, or to your website and then to your webinar. So people that maybe see your ad, right, and maybe an ad that talks about a webinar, blah, 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 they'll click on that ad and it'll either go straight through to your webinar schedule page or your squeeze page, or straight to your website. They can then click on and actually join your webinar as well. So unless you're making money off webinars, then search engine advertising can be quite expensive, because obviously you're paying for that advertising up front. So unless you've got something you're selling at the end of the webinar that's going to counterbalance that advertising budget you've just spent, then I wouldn't recommend you do that at the beginning. But it's something that you want to consider later on, that once you start doing lots of webinars, that you can tweak your adverts on Google Ads and so forth to actually target a lot more people to come to maybe some successful webinars you've run in the past. And it may be better once you've done a lot of webinars that people can actually see you've actually taught these before and it's been successful. Okay, the other thing you can do is look at forums and groups. So you can go into people at LinkedIn groups, you can create your own groups on LinkedIn, look at interest groups on your particular subject. So if you're teaching something like, you know, how to run your business better, you know, how to sell your business, you know, later on, then you might look at groups of entrepreneurs on LinkedIn, yeah, and you want to maybe get into discussions with that, and at one point you maybe drop in that you're running a webinar on a particular thing they might be interested in, and that gets their attention and brings them into your webinar and allows them to actually hear what you have to say. And the same with forums as well. You can look out forums on the internet that are maybe related to what you're talking about and your target audience, really, you know. A lot of things you can actually do as well. You can use this traditional direct marketing. So you can basically send out direct letters and target businesses directly, offering your webinar. And obviously you can, you know, a whole big subject on direct marketing. You know, it's a big area that has got lots and lots of books on it. And unless you know what your really market is and what you're trying to do, then again it can be another expensive exercise. Yeah, but I mean there is some things that work in direct marketing, some things that don't work in direct marketing, and it's a lot of testing. A lot of split testing you have to do to actually get it to work. But over and above all that, you have to have a good marketing hook. Yeah. So whatever way you're actually doing all this, whether you're doing it on groups or social media or direct marketing, you have to have that marketing hook in your title to get people interested in what they want to listen to. Yeah. If it just says, "Oh, I'm doing a webinar next Wednesday, come along and see what I have to say." Yeah. Nobody's going to go click on that. Or, I'm running a webinar on how I can change your business. Right? Again, it's not really exciting, yeah, so you have to have a good marketing hook. You have to say something like how I can take your business from, zero profit to 100% profit over 6 months, or something that will really catch their eye, yeah, and get them really interested in it. And because it has to be something that's real as well, you can't just make up a story and just say, "Oh, I can help you do this," and really at the end of the day you can't. You don't have any proof you can do that. But you have that good marketing hook there to actually get people interested in it. And it's just really just a tweak of words, yeah. And some things will work more, and a lot of things like when you talk about like how to do something, right? That gets a lot of people interested. The word "how to," is a big thing on the internet. People type in Google "how to do something," and they get looking for answers. So you add that into the title. That's quite a good way of hooking people in. Other thing you can do is email marketing. Yeah. So we talked about starting to build your list. So you can obviously promote your webinar via your email. So if you got an existing list already, then you can send out a schedule invitation to all your participants and your current email list and any new emails addresses that come in. And that's just really marketing via email to get people interested to come along. And the last but not least is JV partners. Now, JV partners are joint venture partners, yeah, and you probably heard this term before quite a lot on the internet. And basically what it means is that you can approach other people, yeah, to have a partnership with you on your webinar, that they bring their list to you. So rather than you going seeking out new people to build your list, a quick fast track way of doing it is to speak to other experts who have a list themselves, who maybe have people interested in what you have to say. Yeah, so you can approach these other experts and say to them, "Look, how about we partner up? We do a 50-50 split on any revenue that we actually make from the webinar. Yeah, we actually sell any courses, whatever it may be, and you can bring your list in, and I will pay you 50% commission, yeah, on that for bringing all these leads in." So he might have a list of 100 people, yeah. So the effort for you to go and find and build up a list of 100 people, it might be quicker just to go to another expert and say, "Look, can I use your list to sell my services? Yeah, and I will give you a 50% commission on any sales I sell." Yeah, so that way you're actually bringing in 100 people instantly to your list. Yeah, and that's a quick way of growing your webinars in your business, so that you can actually leverage a lot of your time, as well as a lot of the sales and so forth that you're actually going to be bringing in from that. So another good thing about joint venture partners is that it's a two-way thing. So you could approach them and you could offer them to do a webinar on their webinars, yeah, and talk about things to their clients direct, yeah, and be part of their webinars, yeah. So it's a two-way street all the time. And as I said, the offer at the end of the webinar could be your offer, it could be the expert's offer, it could be both your offers, depending on what you're actually trying to sell. But obviously, it's not an easy thing to get some good joint venture partners. You have to, check them out, make sure they're okay, make sure you go on with them okay. You have to make sure that what they're actually selling is true, and that they have testimonials to prove it and so forth. But it can be quite lucrative, and if you can get maybe 3, 4, 5 good JV partners that you can partner with, then you can both of you can make quite a lot of money from it. So let's move on. How to sell your services and products with your webinar. So I'll just quickly run through a lot of these things. The money's in the content. So what do I mean by that? Well, when you do your webinar, you've got an introduction, you've got content, and you've got an offer at the end. The offer is really, it's not really closing the sale, yeah? The selling is done all in the content area, yeah? So you've been teaching people all your content, all your valuable content that you have there. But what you've also been doing is you've been building them up to the offer at the end. Yeah. So during your content, you want to be actually talking to them about, how this will work for them, creating rapport with them, building a relationship with them and trust. Yeah. Showing them examples, testimonials, that kind of thing. And actually saying to them, look, this works. This is how it works. I've proven it works. These are the people who've used it before. And this is how it can benefit you, and this is the end result you'll get from it. So you're talking about all these things during your content, and then when it comes to your offer, then the participants are really ready and geared up and thinking, great, right, how do I do this, how do I sign up? They're already there, they're already wanting to do it, they're already wanting to give you the money, really, yeah. So all your offer really is doing the end is tell them how they get the offer. Yeah, so the actual selling is done in the middle part. And when you're creating your presentation and doing your slides and so forth, you have to remember that the money is in the content. Yeah, and that's why I was talking about you have to give good, valuable content and show them the end result that they can get from it. So that talks about the next point. Always give away great content and value. Right, you want to be giving away some valuable content. You don't want to be giving all your content away, yeah, and you don't want to be turning it into a lecture, right, or give too much detail. You basically what you want to basically do, especially if it's the first webinars you're doing, is you're basically free webinars, if you like, to get people hooked in, yeah. So you're basically saying to them, look, if you do this step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yep, you will achieve the end result of this. And if you sign up for my course, I will show you how to do this in these step-by-step processes. I will guide you through this process in a step-by-step way. So the actual detail part is really just your course you're selling. Yeah, the actual webinar part is really just talking about what you're selling and a summary really of that. But you also have to give a little bit of valuable content as well. So you have to give them something that they can actually get their teeth into, and actually take it away without having to buy your course. And they can say to themselves, well, this guy's actually giving some great content, some good advice, without me having to pay anything, then if he's given that kind of content in a free webinar, what other great content has he got in my course that I can pay for his course, yeah? So it's kind of showing people that you're there to try and help them, yeah, and giving that good value without going into a lecture about it and going into too much detail, go to this website, click on that, drop that menu, select that option, that's just too much detail. That's the kind of detail you want to get into on part of your courses. That could be one of your modules in your course that you talk about, yeah. You're actually explaining something for someone, but that's not, people don't want to listen to that at the beginning. Okay. So obviously to do your webinar, right, you want to use something like PowerPoint, or you can use a thing called SlideShare, which is an online PowerPoint program. SlideShare is very good for that kind of thing, and you can tweak things online direct with SlideShare. I prefer PowerPoint, just purely from the point that it's quite sophisticated what you can advance things you actually do with PowerPoint with the templates already there. SlideShare takes a little bit getting used to, and a bit of a learning curve to actually learn it. But both have their merits, and both can be used for webinars. The last thing there is use automation tools. What I mean by that is that once you've created a webinar, you've set it all up, you've presented it, and you've sent out the recordings to all your invitees with your offer. So out of that, a few people come back and say, right, I want to sign up for your offer. So they come along, they click on your offer page, and they sign up for it. And then you run your course. So let's just say it's an 8-week course you're running, and you're doing 8 webinars over 8 weeks. And they finish the course, and you've recorded all these modules, all these courses over this 8-week period. You can then use automation tools online to actually save these recordings and put them on your website. And what they actually do is that the next group of people that come along, you can then point them and drip feed the course to them automatically. Yeah. So really what you're doing is that once you've got your initial course all set up and you've taught it and you're happy with it, yeah, and you know that that's the best content that you can give them, yeah, then you keep it, you save it, you then put it into an online website and you automate it, and then anybody coming along that's new will get drip feeded each of the courses over an 8-week period, and they'll just look at all the recordings, and you're getting paid for that, and it's only cost you the first initial of setting up the actual course and presenting it once. Yeah, and once it's done, and that can make you money for months and years to come. Yeah, assuming what you're teaching is still relevant, then you can bring in and you can advertise, you can market that course as much as you want, and just send people straight to the website where the automated course is, and they can actually just carry on doing the course. You can also provide support, one-to-one counselling, and one-to-one coaching, all that kind of stuff, you know, as you go along, and it's something you can upsell as well, and actually they can pay more for. So it's a great wee tool. So what's your next step to webinar success? So let's just recap. So first thing you want to do is you want to research your market. Right? You want to find out who would benefit from what you have to teach. Yeah, you have to find out what your market wants. You want to go onto social media sites, so forth, join groups, join forums, find out who your customers are, your clients are, and speak to them. Yeah, speak to them beforehand, yeah, and just talk to them like, what would you like to hear? What would you like to hear from the webinar? I'm going to create this webinar. I want to hear from you, you know, and that way you're actually teaching them what they want to hear. The next thing you want to do is you want to build a list, right? That's the most important thing. You want to get that list together so that you can constantly in the future keep selling to that list or keep inviting people to your webinars once you have people that opt into your list, yeah? So it has to be an opt-in list. You can buy email lists from companies that sell them. Don't recommend it. The reason why is that a lot of these lists you buy from companies are not opt-in lists, and sometimes you can upset a lot of people by sending out to an email. You don't really know them. You've just bought this list from a company, and basically what happens is you get an nasty email back saying, I don't know you, where did you get my email address, Lord, blah, 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 and that's you ruled out completely. You're been given a bad name right away because you're spamming people, you know. So if you're going to buy a list, make sure that it's from a reputable company, that it's people that have opted in to receive information from the likes of yourselves, yeah. But again, it's another way you can actually build and add to your list. But if you look at ways of actually, you know, you can start building a list just now, even if it's just with one person. Just start every week, every month, to start building a list, building a list all the time, and that'll be the most valuable thing you can have in your business that you can use to sell via webinars and your coaching, your consulting services and so forth. So next you want to do is invite prospects to your webinar. So you want to invite those people for your list that you think would benefit from your webinar. It might not be everybody, it might be a specific niche in your list, and you want to schedule that. So you want to schedule that, and now there's theory and stats that say there's a best time to do a webinar. Like the best time to do it is on a Tuesday or a Thursday. The best time is maybe mid-afternoon or late morning, about 11 o'clock, you know. There's a lot to be said about that. When you think about when people start working on Monday morning, they're just recovering from the weekend, you know, so they might not be in a position they want to listen to your webinar. They might not be, concentration levels quite low. So Monday mornings are out, Monday afternoons probably as well, I'd say. Again, Friday afternoon, everybody's wanting to go home. They want to go home, and they don't want to be listening to your webinar again, and they're not really focusing enough. So really midweek is probably the best time, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I prefer a Tuesday or Thursday, maybe an afternoon or a morning to do it. Then you want to present your webinar, sorry, you want to create your webinar, and then you want to present your webinar. The reason why I put create webinar before present webinar is because, as I talked to you about your research in your market, is that you want to be asking people first what they want to hear in the webinar. So you want to create the webinar first, yeah, to see who's actually going to come along, and then you want to present that webinar, yeah. So by doing that, you're actually giving people what they want. You're not just talking about things that you think people want to hear and doing a webinar and then nobody turns up, yeah, which is not embarrassing, but it's not great for you and it's just not going to get you anywhere. So you want to create the webinar first, right, and get people invited. And once you have that invitation, you then schedule the webinar maybe 1, 2, 3 weeks ahead, and then send out people reminders beforehand, and then during that period you're actually creating the content for the webinar. And the good thing about that is that it actually makes you sit down and actually do it. You know, sometimes people start these things and they can't really get their content created. It takes them a lot of time, it takes them weeks, months to actually do that. Whereas this is actually going to be a timetable, right? It's actually saying, right, I'm running this webinar on this date, I've got to get this content, this PowerPoint presentation together beforehand. So it makes you work to do it and get it done. And plus the fact that you actually get that captive audience of people who wants to listen to what they've told you, what they want to listen to. Yeah. So I would do it in that order. At the end, you want to then give them a compelling offer, and your compelling offer is something you're selling really, right? Whether it be a coach, or you maybe sign up for special offers on your website for your services or your products. Yeah, so you want to give them that offer at the end, because at the end of the day, webinars is really is a sales tool to get you more business and make you more profit in your business, or it's there to really help you build your business, as you go along. So you have to have some sort of offer at the end of it. And if you don't have an offer, then you're just giving information away for free, really. And so you have to have something to sort of lead them into, the clients into some other sort of monetized course or monetized consultancy upsell, So you want to sort of get them to do that at the end of it. Okay, and it might even just be an offer is to sort of attend your next webinar, and this next webinar might be the main offer webinar. Yeah, so you have to have that offer there, and it has to be an offer that is good. It has to be something that's discounted, that you not normally sell at that price. Yeah, and something that maybe it's a time limited offer. So if the first 10 participants that come along, I'll give them a 50% discount. Yeah, or there's only so many places on my course. Yeah, so if you buy today, you'll get a 10% discount for an early bird, and then sign up for my course, and the first 10 will get that. So there's lots of things again, and again, there's a little bit of a marketing hook in your offer at the end there, so to get people interested. Yeah. But by the time you've done your content, people should be interested in what you have to offer. Yeah, so they won't be surprised at the end that, oh God, now he's trying to sell me something. Yeah, because they've already listened to what your content has actually said, and they're quite excited about what else you can actually give them. And by giving them that offer at the end there, they start saying, right, okay, sign me up. I want to hear more. I want to get the detail. Right, I want to, people are lazy. A lot of people don't want to do things for themselves. They want you to hold their hand to do it. So they'll think, right, I'm willing to pay you, £500, whatever it be, for you to take my hand and talk me through this. And if you say this works, and I will have X, Y, and Z at the end of it, then great, I want to give you the money. And you also want to give them a bit of a guarantee at the end as well. Always give a guarantee, because a guarantee then takes away that sales opposition, that selling opposition to people, the barrier to actually selling your product, by saying, well, I'll give you a 30-day money back guarantee, 90-day money back guarantee, that if you're not happy with what I'm teaching, that if I can't prove to you that this works, then you can have your full money back, and that's all the big players actually sell, and that works. You have to have that guarantee there. This takes away any kind of negative response you would have, And then after that, you want to follow up. After you're there, you want to send out your recording of your webinar to all your participants, and you want to sort of say to them, yeah, if you're interested, then you can sign up for my course, or here's my recording, free of charge, and they can look back and listen to it, and you can get other leads from that. Please pass on to any other contacts, any other clients you have that may be interested in it. So you're following up on what you've done there, and it's just, again, a bit of sales and marketing you're doing at the end of it. And also, I would look at maybe sending a recording to any people that were invited, but didn't actually turn up to the course for whatever reason, because people's times are busy. They maybe couldn't actually get along to your course, so you actually send out the recording after it and say to them, look, sorry you missed the course, here's a copy of the recording, let me know what you think, any questions, give me a phone, contact me at this address. So sometimes you can get a lot of business just by sending out the recording as well. people may not be able to come along at that specific time to your live recording. Another thing you do with webinars as well is you can actually do it two ways. You can actually do a live session, or you can do a recorded session. So you can actually record the webinar and just send out and schedule that recording to go out, and then just send out the actual recording to anybody, or people would actually come along at that scheduled time and just listen to the recording of you. That works as long as you're not having sort of live question and answer sessions. If you're having live question and answer sessions, then it has to be live. You can't actually have the recording there because they'll be asking questions. There's nobody at the other end to answer them. So really, excuse me. So really, you have to have, a live session if it's a question and answer, live question and answer at the end. So it's all part of the follow-up. So talking about offers, I'm going to calling all experts out there who may be interested and want to do webinars. I've got a proposition for you. I'm looking for a small number of experts to work with. Now, you could be an expert on all sorts of different things, yeah. That doesn't really concern me. As long as you can prove to me that you have testimonials and proof that what you're actually teaching actually works, and it's something that we can sell on a webinar and actually teach and show people on a webinar, then I'm looking for a 50-50 partnership on any revenue generated via webinars. Now, what that will entail is that myself will be involved in sort of setting up your webinar for you, actually doing all the kind of back-end technical stuff, yeah, and also doing the sort of marketing services to actually bring in people to your webinar, help with your list building as well, help you set up your social media stuff to actually do it, help with all the webinar technical setup of it, and then actually being and holding a hand there on the day when you're actually doing your first webinar live, so that everything goes smoothly for you. And if it's a question and answer webinar you're doing, then actually looking at the questions and the feedback you're getting actually during the process of the webinar, so that you can concentrate on just presenting the content that you actually have. Yes, you don't have to worry about all the technical things that are happening. The thing about webinars is that they become quite technical, and technology, as you know, doesn't always work, so things can go wrong. And if you're having to sort audio things during a webinar, you're having to speak to people that have had problems in the webinar, then it takes away the other people that are listening on your webinar, so that's time consuming for you, and really to have somebody there in the background sort of doing that, looking after it, yeah, then it's very helpful, so what I'm offering here is a 50-50 partnership on any revenue that you generate. So if you're selling a course, say a £500 course maybe, then we can set up the webinar for it, help bring in the people to it, you present it, we record it, we then take that recording, automate it on a website, and then from then on we just generate the money, and any money we're generated from it, we just do a 50-50 split on it. Yeah? Sound interesting? Great. As I say, you need to have a product or knowledge that you can sell via webinars, so it has to be something you can teach online. If it can't be a physical product, it has to be a service. So it's great for people that are coaches or consultants and experts in a particular thing. I'm not too fussed about what the actual content might be, as long as it's something that can sell and it can improve. You have testimonials that can do it, and you can. It's a product that you can actually have produce real results for people, because as we go along, we'll use those testimonials to actually show people that it does work, and that helps to improve the sales later on down the line, and allows you to then increase your costs, increase your sales price on the courses you run and you're providing. So it's something that I've been wanting to do for a little while, and I'm looking for that a small number of experts to work with to sort of set this up and see where it takes us. I've got the technical background, the technical experience, some marketing experience in doing this, so all I need from yourself is just your expert knowledge and your presenting the actual webinar. So if you're interested, then contact me at colin@nevcom.co.uk, or you can call me on my mobile at 0797 1276 175 to discuss this opportunity. So thanks for attending the webinar, and I hope that I've talked and given you good value content here that you can take away and do something in your own business. And as I say, if you're interested in doing a 50-50 partnership by doing webinars and setting things up in your own business, then just give me a shout. But I'll say goodbye, and all the best. Cheers then. Bye.